So,
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Architecture of Ad Groups webinar. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you'd like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, June 8th, 2011. I would now like to turn the conference over to Anna Sawyer from Trada. Please go ahead.
hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar, The Architecture of Ad Groups. We're very happy to have you. We would like to encourage you to tweet during the webinar, and please use the hashtag AdGroupArchitecture. I am Anna Sawyer, and I'm the marketing manager here at Trada. And I'm joined by Matt Hessler, who is our Director of Account Management. Hello. Matt. So here at Trada, we, and especially Matt and I, are passionate about ad group architecture because structuring your ad groups well is integral to success in a search marketing campaign. In fact, we even go so far as to say that ad groups are the foundation of a successful campaign because it's very easy to do them incorrectly, and your campaign can never bounce back from structuring ad groups poorly. So during the webinar, if you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box, and we will answer them after the main part of the webinar. We love answering questions. And tomorrow we'll send you an email that contains a link to the slides, the recording, and also a downloadable guide to ad group architecture. So now I'd like to hand the microphone over to my esteemed colleague, Matt Hessler, who will share with us the secrets of ad group architecture. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Anna. And as proof of my passion on this topic, I will start with the qualification statement. I am fresh off of some bed rest for laryngitis, so I'm nursing a sore voice, but I wanted to be here. I've worked in search for almost 10 years, and I've seen big campaigns, little campaigns, millions of keywords, hyper-focused stuff, and in all of those cases, regardless of the size of campaign you're running or the type of budget you have, ad group architecture is extremely important. So please bear with me if you hear my voice cracking and squeaking and making weird sounds, but we're happy to have you and excited to teach you a little bit about ad groups for organizing your campaigns. So we're going to start with the basics of, why is this important? Why are we here talking about this today? Good ad group structure, first and foremost, is going to lead to more relevant ads paired with keywords, which is going to give you a better quality score. And a better quality score is really what drives lower click prices and also better results, whether that's a conversion result, time on site, however you like to measure your results. Better ad group structure will help you with your click-through and also your conversion rates. So if you don't follow these best practices, what happens, right? If you're sloppy or lazy and you do one ad group with 500 keywords, all just pointing to a single ad and single landing page, you'll actually receive a lower quality score on Google specifically. That actually can decrease your ad position and have you paying more to get fewer clicks, and your competitors can beat you out. The reverse of this is true, that if you're a small guy and you're competing with a giant search network, or a Fortune 500 company who's got a way bigger budget than you, you can outperform them by using these intelligent ad group structure principles. So, the essential practices for ad group structure. We want to keep our ad groups small. We used an example of about 10 keywords as a standard. This can range a little bit, plus or minus, but you definitely want to be in the, let's say, 7 to 20 keywords per ad group type of space. 10 ad groups is a decent standard. You also want to write multiple ads for each ad group. We suggest 4 ads per, and we'll go into a little bit of detail on how those ads should work, how you can rotate them to learn what's driving the most effective click-through rate for your particular ad group. So how should you organize your ad groups? There's lots of ways to think about this, and there's not necessarily one right way. You may want to test a few of these different approaches. It depends a little bit on the type of product or service that you're offering. It depends on your understanding of your buying cycle and how you're trying to approach your customers. We're going to go through a few different examples, grouping things by product, by theme, by concept, by semantic, kind of search terminology, tail size, whether it's kind of head of tail versus long tail, and lastly, point in the buying cycle. So different of these, kind of ad group organization structures can work differently depending on your needs as an advertiser. So the first one we're going to look at here is organizing groups by products. Anna has created this awesome company called Snikey, sells running shoes and various shoe products. So we're going to use this example throughout just to give you guys some context. Product-based ad group would be something where people are actually looking for your product by name, and maybe if you've got lots of products, you want to isolate product types to make sure that the ad copy is really reflective of those products. So in this example, the Nike Air Pegasus men's running shoe, you can pair that with a Air Pegasus ad, and you can land those visitors on a page that's going to be relevant to their query. So it's important to think about these thematically. What is that user's experience throughout the whole process? They've typed in a specific query for your product. They're seeing an ad that reiterates that you are someone that sells that product, and then they're arriving in a landing page that speaks directly to their needs. It's going to help with click-through rate, quality score, and ultimately conversion rate. So if we don't have products as a necessary function, for some of your businesses, you can group these by themes. You know that there are going to be some set of people that are looking for your product specifically. There are others that are maybe just starting their search, and they're looking more thematically. They're looking for the best road running shoe or the best trail running shoe. So organizing some ad groups by themes to capture these terms and to focus your ad copy on what those shoppers are looking for. What separates them here is the theme. They're looking for a trail running shoe versus a road running shoe versus a lightweight running shoe. Those would all be themes that would be a sensible way to partition these into separate ad groups, and important to think about those themes to capture more of your general keyword terms. So again, this works if you have on your site what are considered disambiguation pages. So you've got a category level page. If you're a site that sells all these different types of running shoes, do you have a category for just trail running? Well, then you want to not drop them on a specific product page, but rather on a landing page that speaks to the theme that's important to them, which is trail running. So again, we're thinking about linking all of the pieces of the experience in terms of the keyword, the ad copy, and ultimately the landing page, all done by theme. Now, if your site isn't set up structurally to support that, if you don't have a theme page, you may have to think about what's the best place to land that visitor. Is it to land them at the front door? Is it to land them just on the running shoe section and hope they find their way to the trail running section? Or is this something that you should think about building additional content on your website? Just because different sites are better or worse at supporting these different themes. And if you really start to break down your audience, you can find lots of themes, and it can be hard to support them all. So next we're going to look at kind of ad groups by concept. So concept and theme, there's probably the most overlap. Concept, I think, is really general. So this is kind of, they aren't people just looking for shoes, they're looking for running shoes. This is typically, when you get into like concept-based ad groups, an area where you may be likely to land them on just a home page. They're kind of in that widest part of your sales funnel where the language of a concept-based keyword is typically someone who's just starting their product search, right? You can hear the differentiation of someone who types in, Nike Air Pegasus. They're looking for something very specific. Somebody who's just starting their search, shoes for running, you're going to want to land them in a page that gives them some general information, maybe some comparison data if you sell lots of different shoes, some sort of chart or infographic that's going to help them easily compare. They're kind of self-identifying in these concept-based terms. They're identifying themselves as being in the research part of their funnel. So how do you address their needs differently is kind of an important concept. You want to think about this when you're doing your keyword research. We see this very often that people, they just put in any keywords that fit. Well, I know I sell running shoes, but think about what's the psychology of those specific types of terms, and how do you organize an ad group to support that user's kind of mental state where they're searching. This is very indicative in the concept stage of people who are just starting their research, and let's make sure we cater to them. To land them deep in a shopping cart for a specific model is going to be a bad user experience. They're not there yet. Their search term would indicate that they're much earlier in their process. They want information. They want to maybe connect with you as a brand or a website. You need to build some trust. You need to build some affinity. Think about all those things when you're doing concept-based ad groups. So terminology is another way that we break up ad groups. These are kind of, this will go in with our next slide also about tail size. The terminology is kind of a way to separate the head terms from the tail terms. And we talk about head and tail. You hear that kind of used a lot in search. Head terms are typically things that get high search volume. They're usually highly competitive and therefore expensive, but they're also very general. We know by and large searchers are still lazy, even though the stats are saying that they're getting better at using deeper query language. The terminology is usually fairly basic. They don't want to spell things that are tricky. They don't want to type longer than they need to, so they're going to use short words. And you'll see in these examples here things as basic as footwear, trainers, jogging shoes, running shoes. People will keep their search very short, especially in the early part of their search behavior. So how can you organize around this terminology? If you set up ad groups by term, this is a great place to test some dynamic keyword insertion, keep things relevant to your users. We'll go over that when we talk a little bit more about ad copy. So tail size, which we alluded to in the last slide, is really important. And sometimes you would break up your ad groups by this. For those of you that are running bigger, more advanced campaigns, a lot of times we hear people actually breaking up campaigns by tail size. Pardon me, that's the laryngitis kicking in. When you deal with the kind of head of the tail, your terms that are very broad and drive high volume and are high cost, you may actually consider setting up a separate campaign for those terms. By setting up a separate campaign, you can declare a certain budget for your head terms and then isolate your long tail terms, which are phrases that are typically 3 words or more. They're going to be lower cost and higher conversion rate. What we find is people blend these in the same ad group and sometimes in the same campaign. The campaign budgets get eaten up by the head-tail terms. Google is incented to serve a lot of impressions for your head-tail terms. They cost more. They're going to monetize those clicks quickly. And so if you really want to prioritize the head versus the tail, you may need to consider for certain separate ad groups, but potentially separate campaigns with one budget just for your head terms and a separate part of your budget for the tail terms. And lastly, kind of my favorite way to look at ad groups, depending on the type of user you are, is to look at people based on their place in the buying cycle. So we spoke about this a little bit with concept terms. People at the widest part of your sales funnel, we call that the awareness part. They're just starting to learn about the products in the space. They're cross-shopping. They're trying to look at doing some price comparison, some feature benefit analysis. So these would be people looking for things as general as shoes for running, running shoes. You want to appeal to them in a more broad way. Say, the ad copy may be focused around find the best running shoes for your needs, or find out which type of running shoe works best for you. They're in an information gathering stage in their search process, so writing ad copy that will appeal to them is important, and I think it's a great thing to identify in your ad group structure. So the next level down is kind of this comparison. So maybe they're searching for you by name. They're at least looking for, in this example, Nike running shoes or prices on Nike running shoes. So they may be comparing your site with other sites on the web that sell your same product. At this point, you want to organize the ad group around those types of terms and write copy that is a little more compelling in terms of call to action and gives them some benefit to click even at the ad level. So something about fast free shipping, things like that can be important at this type of ad group. because you know they're comparing you with other ads that you're showing up against in the Google results. So you want something that's going to set yourself apart, shows them value right in that. And the way you do that is by isolating these types of comparison keywords. You'll see some good examples here, that you want to isolate these types of keywords, pair them with an ad that provides value, and then get them right into a shopping experience. And then lastly is kind of your direct engagement. This is somebody who's looking for a product or brand that you sell by name. So the example here is Nike Air Pegasus men's running shoe size 10. This is a very good example of a great direct long-tail term. You want to isolate these and really appeal to this person. It sounds like a pain, and you're going to have to create all these ad groups, but this might live in an ad group that is only 3 to 10 keywords in that entire ad group, but these customers are gold to you. Anybody who searches this, if this is a product you sell, if you sell an Air Pegasus running shoe in a size 10, you want to get in front of these people. So it's important to isolate them in a specific ad group and use language that's going to be highly appealing to them. This is where you can start to, if you compete based on price and you think your prices are competitive, the product they're looking for, put the price directly in the ad. Give them every reason to come to the site. I would also suggest a fairly aggressive bidding strategy when you've isolated these people. And that's what's nice about doing smart ad group architecture, right? The way I would price keywords in the concept phase, those keywords in that concept ad group are way less valuable to me. That's somebody who's just looking for running shoes, running kicks. They may or may not be interested in what I have at my particular store. When I see somebody who's doing a search for Nike Air Pegasus men's running shoe size 10, that is the exact person I want. I want to make sure the ad is laser targeted to them, the landing page is going to drive conversions, and then I'm going to price this very aggressively to make sure this person is coming to the site. And the way to organize that is by this kind of smart ad group structure. So we talk a little bit about ads. We've got a couple things to look at here in terms of ads and match types. We want you to be creative. We do think that it's important. Whenever I'm writing ad groups, I think of the terms first. I'll go out and I'll test some of those terms on the engines and see what people are already using for ad copy. You get a lot of what they call search blindness or whatever, where people see the ads, but they're kind of tuned out to it. It's hard to really make your ad pop when there's 10 ads on the page and all the organic listings, and people, you only have their attention for a fraction of a second. How are you going to make your ad stand out? Well, everybody uses dynamic keyword insertion. Everybody puts price in. Be creative, and this is a great example, right? Your ad has nothing to do with cavemen, but somebody may look at that and it may catch their attention. It can be clever. We suggest doing these types of creatives as part of an overall strategy where you're testing. You won't always find that they work. It depends how price sensitive or feature benefit sensitive your space is. But getting a little creative, I think, can be really exciting. It lets you to exercise some things, and search is great because it's really easy to test those different types of creative strategies, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later. So match types is something we get asked about quite often. We'll give you a little background on the different match types for those people who don't know. The popular match types are kind of the broad match, phrase match, and exact match. Google has given us this ability to tailor our searches based on how broad or narrow we want our traffic, and we can use these intelligently. And we'll go back to kind of how our ad groups are structured. Different structure begets certain match types. So the first one we'll look at is broad match. Broad match is both good and bad. If you're doing a branding campaign, it's fabulous. If you're working in that awareness part of your funnel where you're going after very general visitors, it can be a good place to advertise. Broad match for the word shoes, would get paired with lots of terms in Google search results. So that could be shoes to buy, tips for repairing shoes, shoes for horses, bowling shoes. And you can see in those examples, if I'm selling running shoes specifically, there's some dangers here with the broad match. It can be really effective if we just want to blanket the market and get our name out there and make sure that lots of people are identifying us as a big player in the shoes space, but there's some stuff here that we don't sell likely, right? We don't repair shoes, we don't have horseshoes, we don't have bowling shoes, so this is kind of dangerous to use the broad match as a wholesale kind of idea. The next level of targeting is what they call phrase match. So phrase match terms you'll always see appearing in quotes. That means that the phrase has to appear together, so it gives us one deeper level of qualification. So Google will still pair it with outside terms. In the example here, you'll see buy running shoes for kids, and recycle running shoes. We at least know in all these examples that they are looking for running shoes, but we can see some things here that are still outside of the sphere that we want to be in. So we don't do running shoe recycling, so that term could be dangerous. It could lead us to spending money on an irrelevant visitor. And lastly, we're going to look at exact match. Exact match you'll see with the square brackets. In an exact match permutation, Google will serve that ad only for that exact keyword in that order. So not even for shoes running, it has to be running shoes in that order. That phrase has to be there to show up, to have your ads generate impressions on Google. So that's going to be your most targeted, and we'll walk you through some use cases of when you want to use each of these. So we don't want to mix all three of these match types in one ad group, right? This goes back to our general theme of ad group structure or architecture. If you are looking at things by creative or by, I think we called it concept in our earlier slide, right? So people that are just looking broadly for running shoes, that's really where you want to use things like your broad match or your phrase match. There's also, if you're dealing with Google specifically, modified broad match, which you'll see identified by a plus sign. That modified broad match means that if that ad is served with other keywords, that keyword that's identified by the plus sign must be present, otherwise your ad will not show for that key term. So we can go a little bit more into that if people have questions later on how to use modified broad, but we'll stick to the three basic match types. Basically, the psychology is as you get deeper in your funnel or you're identifying keywords for ad groups that are more specific, like our example of a Nike Air Pegasus men's running shoe size 10, you want to see that as at least a phrase or probably an exact match. And so you can really isolate it. You know exactly what that person is looking for, and then I would go and bid pretty aggressively on those terms. So if we know that that's not getting cross-served by Google with some other permutation, as it might in a broad match situation or a phrase match situation, we know they searched exactly that term, and that term is super important to our business, then we want to make sure that we're bidding really aggressively. So broad match is great for testing the waters. Isolate your broad match terms in a single ad group so you can continue to play with both their bid price and the ad copy they're relating to. Once you see some themes that are working, start pairing 2 and 3 and 4 word combinations in phrase match and move them to a new ad group. And lastly, if you have specific product names or service types or things that are spot on with what you're trying to offer, use those as exact match terms and put them in an ad group where you can bid them very aggressively because they're likely to drive the highest conversion rate. So get negatives. This is our upside down Parthenon here. And what do we mean by getting negative is using negatives at the ad group level can be really impactful, especially when we're talking about all this use of broad match. People get really scared of broad match because you can spend money on search queries that are really not that relevant to your business. A great way to control that is by your use of negative keywords. Just so there's no confusion, you can apply on Google negative keywords on both a campaign level and an ad group level. We suggest if you're really getting into the weeds and building strategic ad groups to try to use the negative keywords at the ad group level. Adding negative keywords to your campaign will ensure that your ad does not appear when this negative qualifier is is used. And we have an example here that might bring this into focus. So if our ad group is running shoes, we might use negative keywords like used, reviews, and repair. So if we use running shoes broad match, but people out there are looking for used running shoes or running shoe repair, our ads won't show up if those keywords are present. So it's important to use negatives. It can be really powerful. It can reduce your kind of unwanted spend and impressions on things that you're not likely to get good click-through rate. Remember that the key to all of this ad group structure is for us to increase our quality score. Any of you out there that are running AdWords, I'm sure, are seeing the effects of quality score. That is Google's kind of assessment of your relevance of your keyword to your ad copy and that pairing to your landing page. Well, if the keyword is a broad match and it's getting cross-served with running shoe repair, and your ad and your landing page have nothing to do with running shoe repair, you're going to get dinged a little bit on your quality score. If you use a negative, you're going to see that quality score increase. Quality score increase usually means you can achieve better position with the same or less click cost. So how do we come up with a list of negative keywords? It can be hard, right? Just to sit and brainstorm what are all the crazy permutations that people might come up with that pair with my good keywords. Google actually has some great tools to help facilitate this. You'll see in your Google Reports section for any AdWords account something called a Search Queries report. You can run that at an ad group level or at a campaign level. That will show you all of the actual queries that were done for your related terms. It's a great way. I run that report, at the very least once a month. Look for terms that are somewhat superfluous, that are going to drive users that we don't really want. I look at that search queries report, pull those out, and add negative qualifiers based on that search queries report. So if you guys aren't using that tool provided by Google, I strongly encourage you to do so. You'll find some crazy stuff that you would never think that your good keywords are being cross-served with could be happening, could be at the very most mild, it could be lowering your quality score. In worst case, it actually could be costing you money with people clicking on things that are pretty much irrelevant. So work backwards. What do we mean by this? This is a kind of an old adage. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing search for about 10 years, and one of the things that I've told clients as a consultant, as an agency rep, as a member here at Trada, is always work backwards and plan your work and work your plan. And so by that, I really mean, because quality score is so important, and we want to come out of the gate creating these good campaigns, how can we make sure that we're going to have this relevance between our landing page, our ad, and our keyword? Well, the landing page probably already exists and can be tough to manipulate. You don't want to have to go to your IT team and ask them to add in more keyword content or update your metadata or actually add physical, an additional 300 words to a landing page. That can be really time consuming and in some cases just not possible with certain bandwidth constraints. So we want you to start by looking at your landing page and work backwards. Think about, based on that landing page, what keywords would be most relevant to that landing page. How do I write ad copy that kind of links the keywords to the landing page? The ad's kind of the segue, and it's really hard given that you have limited number of characters per line. You have to write something that both stands out to the user, gives them a compelling reason to click, and maintains relevancy between the keyword and the landing page. So for those of you that just throw up an ad and don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, the ads are pretty critical. They're kind of the bridge between the keyword and the landing page. So yep, this is kind of stuff that I was just speaking to. We're using copy from the landing page to think about how we should form up these ad groups, what kind of themes we should use, and then we want to double check everything for relevance. So once you come up with your ad group and the various keywords in there, take a look, right-click, view the source of your landing page. You'll see metadata up top. The two tags that are most important are meta keyword and meta description tags. I know this is getting a little techy and SEO, but this is one of the quick ways that Google checks for relevancy. We've seen quality scores pop by, 2 to 4 positions just by making sure that the keywords in the ad group are actually contained in that metadata. It can be a real quick fix if you're suffering from low quality score and you don't want to make massive page changes. The metadata is behind the scenes. Users don't really need to see it. If you pepper some of this stuff in, you'll see that quality score go up. So this is one of the other great things about search, and specifically about ad group structure, but search marketing has testing built right in. And what do we mean by that? Well, for every ad group, we think that you should test different types of copy. And you want to test both the messaging and then maybe some copy tricks. You want to see what type of messaging increases your click-through rate. Obviously, click-through rate is another big function of quality score. So Google is trying to assess, how likely you are to get a click every time they show their ads. Not to make them sound too capitalistic, but that's their measure of their ability to monetize your ads. So you may be willing to pay a lower amount, but if you've got a really high click-through rate, they've got some confidence that your ad is going to get clicked, and they only maybe make 70 cents from you as opposed to 90 cents from your competitor, but they're more likely to have your ad get clicked. That's good for Google, and that means it's good for you. So you want to really think about click-through rate and do that through ad copy testing. So we think, what's pretty much appropriate for ad copy testing is to run about 4 ads per ad group, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The other kind of flip side to this is, how can you use search to drive your other marketing channels? If you guys are out there doing marketing across several platforms, you've got email campaigns, you've got banners, retargeting. Search is one of the fastest ways to test message validity. So what you test in your search ads can quickly be used. You see that click-through rate pops when you put out a free shipping offer, or click-through rate pops when you talked about a particular feature to your product or service. You want to learn from that and use it across your other channels. So, search, you can have meaningful click-through rate results within a couple days. Really hard to test that quickly with anything else. It also gives you a nice cohesive messaging across all of your marketing channels. So here's how we do it in terms of ad group, ad copy testing. We typically suggest about 4 ads per ad group. Some people will be okay testing more. We find that 4, if you've got the time and attention to log back in and review their click-through rate performance, is about right. More than that, Google has to spread your impression share over a ton of different ads, and it takes you longer to build meaningful results. So we would suggest, make sure the ads are highly variable, change the subject lines, possibly use dynamic keyword insertion in some, but not others. For those of you who don't know, the dynamic keyword insertion is a squiggly bracket context, and it says keyword colon and then a default search phrase. By using this methodology, you basically can pull in whatever the user's actual query was and use that as a subject line, or use that within the body. If people have further questions about dynamic keyword insertion, we can certainly make sure that we cover that in a question and answer part after the presentation. So try testing 4 ads per ad group. After 2 weeks of testing, look at your click-through rate data. You want to give it enough time to be relevant, and then start getting rid of the ads that aren't working as well. You want to constantly test new ads, and you want to give it enough time that the ad test can be valid. You do see a pop with new ads just on ad freshness. If it's a new ad as opposed to an ad that you've been running for several weeks, it can be bad. If you only test it for a couple of days, you may be getting an artificial click-through rate increase just because it's a fresh new ad. So you want to make sure that everything is staying on target. So test for 2 weeks, get rid of your bottom 2 ads, write 2 new ads, continue testing, rinse and repeat. So here's a summary of what we've talked about today so far. Ad groups are the foundation of successful search marketing campaigns. They're important because they're going to really drive your quality score, and they're going to drive the experience for the user. So you want to make sure that you've tailored that ad group to that user experience. somebody who's looking for your product exactly needs to be treated differently than somebody who's just starting to research your product or category. Next, we want to keep our ad groups small and relevant. This is important, based on all the reasons we just heard. We want better quality score from Google. We want a better experience for the user. Small ad groups are our pathway to doing this. It does require heavy lifting. I mean, the reason why people build big ad groups is generally because they're fairly lazy, or they don't see the distinctions between different types of keywords and user behavior. But try to keep them small. Really hold your feet to the fire. Don't let any of those ad groups go over 20 keywords. If you write good specific ads in small ad groups, you're going to see better quality score and better overall performance. And lastly, don't be a slacker. Write a lot of ads as well. So not only don't slack on the actual architecture and keeping the ad group small, but write ads, review them every couple of weeks, really look at the stats and learn from that, see what kind of messaging is working and speaking to your audience, and kind of constantly be refreshing those ads so that you're always appealing to users. Eventually you may get to a plateau where you've found an ad that really gives you an acceptable click-through rate. Keep those, but try testing new fresh ad copy. Try testing stuff that's potentially seasonal or timely in terms of news or current events. Sometimes you can catch a great uptick in click-through rate just for a short window of time by capitalizing on what's on people's mind, and you do that by dedicating yourself to doing constant ad copy revision. So we're going to talk a little bit about Trada just for a few minutes. That's why we're here and where Anna and I spend our days. Trada is the world's first crowdsourced pay-per-click search marketplace. So what we've done is we actually have about 2,000 certified search marketing experts who do the PPC work for you. We know that PPC is hard. We know things like setting up small, tight ad groups and writing constant ad copy is a lot of work. So what we do is we use a crowd to do that. So you as an advertiser bring a campaign, optimizers elect to join your campaign, and they build out this content for you, constantly updating everything from bid prices to match types to ad group structure and copy. You get multiple experts. You get their diversity of thinking, which is a huge value. As one person, I consider myself a search expert. I build some big campaigns, but I do that all with my own search bias. How I would look for something is different than how Anna might look for something, or different than how somebody who's 60 years old and lives in Florida might look for something. Everyone has age bias, geography bias, racial, religious, whatever it is. By using a group of people to create your campaign, you get incredible diversity. They're also basically measured and paid on their performance, so they're motivated to give you constant optimization. And we let you advertise across both Google, Yahoo, and Bing, so you get all the search networks from one kind of easy interface. So they already know about this ad group optimization. They know how to build good structure. They're going to achieve those better quality scores and higher conversion rates. Trada gives you a lot of great way to offload your search work to a team of experts that are going to bring a new, fresh perspective to your campaign. Trada is pay for performance. There's no fees in terms of setup or management fees, and you can get started right away. We have to learn a little bit about your campaign so that we can get that information to the optimizers who may elect to work on it. They select whether or not it's an industry they understand or have been successful in the past, and start generating content for you that goes out to the networks right away. So now time for questions. I'm going to give my voice a break for a few and let Anna see what kind of questions we've had from the audience.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm also experiencing some voice issues. So just so everyone knows, we got a ton of really, really great questions. I think we will unfortunately not be able to get to them all, but I will have Matt answer as many as he possibly can. And I'd like you guys to continue the conversation. You can feel free to email me at anna@trada.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have offline. We also had a couple or a handful of questions that were off topic from ad groups. And I think because we want to stick to the theme of ad groups, I'm going to stick to ad groups related questions for now. But we have a wealth of resources on our trada.com/resources page where we have covered lots of these topics before. And again, if you want to follow up with me personally, I will make sure to get you the answer to the question that you guys asked. So I'm going to start off with a question from Claire. She asks, should we pick only one of the 6 ad group types? I assume no one would have the budget to do all of that at once.
That's a great question. I think that it's interesting that you alluded to budget. That would be my answer by and large, is that the budget really dictates how much ad group testing you can do. If you've got a very finite budget, you want to start with the most direct users, concentrate on those folks. They're going to be the most impactful to your business. They're going to deliver the best ROI as a search campaign. So think about isolating very specific product names or service types first. Build those ad groups out. Those ad groups should pay for themselves pretty quickly. You should be able to go back to your boss, manager, financial controller, whoever it is, and say, okay, this has been proven successful. We got positive ROI based on those nice, tight, direct ad groups, and then work your way up the food chain. Then get to the people that are searching for you by category. So instead of, Snike Air Pegasus, it's Snike trail running shoes. Whatever, kind of the next level up is, people that are looking for you categorically are important. It really is reserved for those with fairly large budgets to go after the really broad, either concept or, kind of semantic ad groups. So people that are just looking for shoes or running shoes, every time you get to a wider place in the funnel, you're probably going to lose a percentage point or more in terms of your conversion rate. But it can be a great way for you to get in front of those people. That person who starts by just looking for running shoes, sure, they're out there just getting information, but if you can't get in front of them then, they may not know you exist when it's time for them to make a purchase. So if you can afford it, move up to the widest part of your funnel, but for those that are operating on, shoestring budgets, start with neatly formed ad groups that are the most targeted.
Great, thanks, Matt. So Ryan wants to know, what if you have phrase or exact match keywords that convert well, but Google doesn't run them because the search volume is too low?
There's not much you can do out there. If Google's saying the search volume is too low, that means they're literally just not seeing very many queries. It's important to keep those. I would actually suggest isolating those into their own ad groups. Sometimes those low search volume keywords can dilute your overall quality score. So if I had an ad group that had maybe 18 or 20 keywords in it and 3 or 4 of those were low search volume, I want to keep them because they could be important to my business, but they're not getting searched very often. So I might break those into their own separate ad group and call it, whatever, Air Pegasus low volume, and just run those same terms. On the off chance that they do get a search and the ad shows up, we want to be there, but we don't want them to dilute the quality score of the rest of the group.
Thanks, Matt. So here's a question from Gina. She asks, when searchers type in the exact name of my hotel, they see it at the top of organic results. So should I use a negative keyword to prevent my ad from showing so I don't spend on those clicks?
This is an age-old question. We get this a lot, and people have different opinions. Some people would say, that's money wasted. I'm going to get that traffic via my organic results. Those of us that are more on the PPC camp, this is a PPC versus SEO battle topic, but on the PPC side, my view would be that there's 20 potential results positions on any Google results page. Why wouldn't you want to be 2 of them instead of 1 of them? On the off chance that somebody, this visitor is looking for you directly, yes, you're going to have to pay to get them there, but if you feel like they're a good visitor because they're searching for you by name, it may be worth the money spent. And we do see absolutely great conversion rates on a lot of those branded terms. So yes, it costs you some money. Yes, they may have come in through your organic results, but if you weren't there and they ended up clicking on one of your competitors instead, you'd be sad that you lost them, and a lot of times it's worth the money that you spend.
Plus, by definition, a branded term that's your own branded term should be very inexpensive because you shouldn't really have any competition for it.
It's true.
So Sven has a question about Trada, actually. How do Trada advertisers ensure that optimizers are following best practices for ad groups?
So it's interesting because at Trada, we're here giving you a webinar on best practices. We've got lots of information on what works and what doesn't in terms of ad group structure. But we also have a marketplace where we believe in letting people be creative, right? If everybody did the same by-the-book thing, use the same terms, same ad copy, you don't really get that rich diversity that we promote at Trada. So what we see a lot of times is lots of different strategies. Most of them are, guided by some amount of best practice. We don't let people go crazy and put 500 keywords in a single ad group, but we don't limit them too explicitly because we want to show you a diverse set of strategies. We see this all the time. We look at our campaign leaderboards. We maybe have 5 or 7 or 10 people working on a campaign. Someone may have taken a strategy where they only uploaded a total of 25 keywords and they have it broken into 5 ad groups. Someone else may have taken a long tail strategy where they have 500 keywords and several hundred ad groups to support that. So, we want that diversity. We want to believe that what you're going to get from Trada is going to be different than what your own campaign would look like. It doesn't all work all the time, but these optimizers are compensated based on their ability to drive performance. So if they test a strategy and it doesn't work, they're inherently motivated to revise that strategy and try something else. So we try to keep the payouts, kind of contingent on the performance and keeps everybody's goals in line.
I should also point out that Trada is a crowdsourced paid search marketplace, and we have a lot of mechanisms in place to make sure that your money doesn't run away with you. First of all, optimizers have to pass a rigorous certification exam, and in addition to that, it works like a market. So optimizers who perform well actually get clicks and conversions, and they're paid for them. So our next question is, sorry. I have a list here. Brady wants to know, how many ad groups can you have in a campaign? Is there a limit?
So Google does put some limits on total number of ad groups per campaign. I believe it has changed over time. I believe they're up to either 200 or 250 ad groups per campaign. You can also, break out several campaigns within one account. So I would look to Google for their T's and C's. You can always file an exception if you have a reason to have more ad groups. Google's actually pretty understanding. They understand that ad groups equal better search relevancy, equals more clicks for you and more money for them. So if you find that you're hitting that limit, and I'm sorry that I'm not totally up to date on what the current limit is, but if you're hitting that limit, it's pretty easy to email someone at Google and get that limit raised.
Thanks, Matt. So now we have a very specific question. For a very technical product, for example, semiconductor chips, would you recommend that the ad group be organized by product, since engineers wouldn't really be searching other ways like a consumer might for shoes?
I would say organizing things by product type is probably going to be the best bang for your buck, similar to even a consumer search. And I hope I'm understanding this correctly. I think it's important, when you get into specific verticals like that, is to think about how your customers may start their search. Is there a particular problem they're trying to solve with these semiconductors? Can you do it? Can you construct an ad group based on a usage for the product? So if they're not looking for the product by name, but they're looking for a usage of a product to solve a problem, there may be some themes in there that you could draw out into an ad group. I hope that answers the question. It's hard without a little more specific context.
So we are running low on time, so I'm going to answer just a couple more questions. Everyone, thank you so much for being patient, and thanks for sending in all your great questions. So Katie asks, is there a drawback to using more than 10 keywords per ad group?
So if you can make a case for them being all thematically similar, meaning keep in mind that all of these ad groups are going to be shown the same ad or set of ads and all be driven to the same landing page. If the argument holds water that this group of keywords, be it 15, 20, 30 keywords, what we'd say is not necessarily a best practice. If you could argue the case that they are still thematically concurrent with the ad and with the landing page, then I think it's okay to be flexible on that rule. Just really, when you get that full set of keywords and you're looking at it, think about if there's a way to break it apart into smaller ad groups that are going to be a little more specific and more relevant. Then it never hurts to go smaller. It can hurt to go bigger. As asked in another question earlier about the low search volume, like if you have a 30 keyword ad group and some of those keywords are found to be less relevant than others, it can dilute the overall quality score for that ad group. So think about those keywords as a group performing together. You may want to shed your dead weight, or you may want to get rid of some of those keywords that aren't quite as good a fit, put them in another ad group so it isolates them. If they get lower quality score than your priority keywords, you want to be able to isolate that and maximize the quality score for the ad group.
Thanks, Matt. It looks like we have time just for one more question. And again, if you guys didn't get your question answered, or if you want to follow up, I did get a question about dynamic keyword insertion, which is something that's a really pretty complicated topic, but I think very important. And given the success of our ad groups webinar, where we went pretty deep on one thing, I think it may be high time for us to have a dynamic keyword insertion webinar. So keep your eyes peeled for an email about that. So our final question is, again, about Trada. It is, how do you manage the optimizers in their ad groups? Can they see each other, and does this create internal competition?
So we work on a kind of philosophy of kind of that cooperation or frenemies type principle. All the optimizers on the campaign have the same goal to drive the campaign's success, to make sure the advertiser continues to stay at Trada so that everyone makes money. To those ends, we let the optimizers see each other's stats in terms of how they are performing, and some macro stats in terms of how many keywords they use and maybe how many ad groups they use. But we don't let them get any more specific than that. So I can't see how Anna maybe structured her campaign. We find that's part of your kind of search IP as an optimizer. What keywords you use, how you write your ad copy, and how you structure really determines how much success you can drive. And so I don't want Anna to see exactly how I've done it, but I do want her to see if I'm beating her. We have what we call a leaderboard, so both the optimizer and the advertiser, everyone can see how everyone working on the campaign is ranking. Anna can see that I'm outranking her. I'm driving more clicks and more conversions. She can see some elements that I'm, maybe using X number of keywords and X number of ads, but she can't see exactly how I've got it structured. So I maintain my own kind of search IP, but she can see that, hey, maybe I need to increase my keywords to be more competitive and see if I can beat Matt on the leaderboard.
It is that competitive collaboration that actually makes the marketplace work. We've taken a lot of cues from game mechanics when designing the way our marketplace works, and actually crowdsourcing is, in many ways, we like to say, the future of work, because this competitive collaboration, these monetary and non-monetary rewards, all these things are put in place to really promote good work, and work that benefits both the advertiser and the optimizer. So that was our final question. Again, please feel free to follow up with me at anna@trada.com. I will do my best to answer your question or put you in the right hands. Matt, thank you so much for hosting today and getting out of your sick bed to be passionate about ad group architecture.
Thank you. And if any of you care to ask questions or follow me, I am at FasterStill on Twitter. That's FasterStill on Twitter, or mhessler, HESSLER, at Trada.com. Welcome any of your questions. I am a total search nerd and relish any opportunity to talk shop, so feel free to send them my way.
Great. Thank you, everyone, so much for attending. We will be sharing slides and a recording and also a free guide tomorrow. So look in your email inbox for that. Thanks, everyone. I'm Anna Sawyer. This concludes the webinar.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the webinar for today. We thank you for your participation, and as please disconnect your lines.